Hello, everyone. Welcome to BUIDL101 with TRON DAO. I'm fortunate to have two great guests with me today. From Tatum, we have Chris and Shelby. This has been an exciting partnership for the last 2 years. I've known Chris for about almost 2 years now, and Shelby for a little over a year and a half. And every time I talk to them, I learn something new. So I hope they get to do the same for everyone watching here. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself and what do you guys do at Tatum? And if you don't mind, what Tatum is as well, for people who don't know.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm a solutions engineer at Tatum, so I work with our prospects and customers and developers to build on our platform and help them to understand what they can do with us. So a lot of my time is spent working with people that are building, learning what they're doing, and how they can work with Tatum's system, SDK, and API. And I met Ijaz at Ethinter last year, where we got battle tested in the warfare of chicken fingers.
Good. The war
Oh my.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Ray, I'm the director of partnerships here at Tatum, and yeah, it's been amazing working with the Tron team, and we've had some really powerful integrations, and we've seen a really great response to what we offer for the Tron community, and yeah, hoping to provide more. We're really excited. Thanks again, Jess, for inviting us to uh, be judges over at the hackathon for season 6. So we're looking forward to participating.
Yes, we're excited to have you guys be as judges. It's a good point. I'll briefly mention the hackathon as well. So we just launched. If you're watching this, hackathon season 6 launch February 20th. So maybe a few days ago from today. But if you're watching this, a few weeks ago, whatever it is, submissions are ending May 7th, 2024. So you have 3 months to build a project. We have a few tracks you can kind of choose from. There's DeFi. Artistry is a track we did where we combined NFT and GameFi and kind of use your creative juices to make, whatever you believe is a great design product for both NFTs, artistry, or something else entirely. We have Web3, which is like a catch all for anything that's not already mentioned in these tracks. And then we have two other ones. One is called Builder. Those are for projects who have made projects before in the hackathon and want to keep building those certain projects. Maybe they're missing something, they want to add it more. So they have the opportunity to do that there in the Builder track. And our new integration track, which is a way to get projects to use and utilize Tron protocols. So we have tons of different ecosystem partners with us at Tron. And if you want to build those projects into your own project, whether it's an API, SDK, or an entire section dedicated to that certain protocol, integration track is a new one where you can do that. And so, with that being said, builders always want to know how can they build their projects from scratch, or maybe not scratch. Maybe I can use a certain platform to help me build better and save some time. And I'm extremely grateful to have you guys here to kind of showcase what that does, what that looks like for Tatum, and how the Tatum platform can help developers make their jobs a bit easier using the Tatum platform. And Shelby, I would love for you to take it away, do your thing, and can't wait to see what you have here for us in store.
Yeah. So I don't know who's watching this. If you're a first time um, builder, like you never built anything in your life, or you're more seasoned. So I'll try to tailor it to both. But what I have to show off is kind of like a little demo on how to make a simple web app that interacts with blockchain data, bare minimum stuff.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think we'll have, a little bit of both. We'll have developers who are maybe been on EVM projects for the last, 4 or 5 years. And we also have developers who've just been on Tron and maybe some in the middle as well. But I think this year we have a lot of beginners coming in. So if you don't mind talking to them of how they can use Tatum as well, that'd be fantastic. So looking forward to it.
Nice. Okay. So I'll just start with the high level of what Tatum is. Tatum is primarily an SDK for interacting with the blockchain. We support something like 90 blockchains if you count their test nets. So we have broad coverage of various Web3 platforms. And one thing that we really focus on is developer experience. That's our primary goal as we build. And part of that is our beautiful documentation site where it has information on everything you would want to know, including individual RPC calls for Tron. And to back that all up, we also run our infrastructure for those nodes. So two parts of the system. So from here, you can quickly, get started and install the SDK. That's TypeScript and JavaScript. So pretty straightforward. If you're a developer, you're already very familiar with this. And if you're not, um, it's a pretty straightforward process of getting your environment set up, downloading something like VS Code or whatever IDE you want to use, installing Node, and installing these packages. Um, that's a little bit out of scope for this video, I think, but feel free to do that. One alternative that I found that works really well for me is using something called a dev container. And a dev container is just a container, a Docker container that is a virtualized developer environment that comes pre-configured and can easily be deployed, spun up. You can work in it, make your changes, commit them, and then spin it down. And then when you're ready to start again, you can spin it up and it builds it from scratch. And it's a really quick process. So I have one built here using this config file, and it's pretty straightforward. Um, it just runs the Docker file. Inside the Docker file is the image, which is TypeScript Node. It's running some version of Linux. I think it's Ubuntu. But it has all of the Node dependencies and the npm dependencies installed. So once you have this, you don't need to do anything. You can just npm install Tatum and be on your way. Which you can see as the container is created, that runs out of the box. I also have some extensions that I added here. VS Code extensions are really cool. They're like browser extensions. They do certain things. For example, the generic GitHub ones, so you can use GitHub through a UI rather than the command line or Dice. Copilot with GitHub is awesome. Probably the best $10 to spend every month. It's actually so impactful that when I'm typing outside of VS Code, like I'm typing a chat in Slack or WhatsApp, I just like stop typing and wait for it to autocomplete. And then I'm like, oh, yeah.
It's changed you. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's changed me. Yeah. Honestly, I think it's probably more of an impact in my life than ChatGPT is. So it's pretty cool.
I think you might have sold me on that because I still pay ChatGPT, but GitHub might be the next one. Good call.
I still use GPT, but I feel like it's been kind of nerfed lately.
Fair enough.
So got those there. So if you want to go to a repo or a project that has one of these, we can share this link in the video. You can actually do this in your browser. So you just go to the code and create code space on master, and it'll start building it. It's a little bit of a process. Takes 2 or 3 minutes to download the files and start the virtual machine up.
I imagine it takes less time for you to do your entire setup by scratch from all the things you need, right? This just does it for you. It might take some time, but maybe half the time it would take for you doing it by yourself, I imagine.
Yeah, and exactly. And the other part of it is like I always forget what I needed, so I have to like go and figure out what I was using in the past, and it's just so much easier to do it this way. And in practice, you're not starting from scratch. You already have one, and you just start it, and it takes like 5 seconds to start. So it's a really cool tool. Makes developing a lot easier. Cool. And you can actually do this in your browser, so you don't even need to have VS Code installed.
That's pretty cool.
Cool. So it's all open now. Terminal's open. We're all good. So if you're already have this and you don't want to do a code space, here's where you would create a new folder, CD into it, and install the Tatum package and get started. I've already done all that. I mean, it's part of the dev container, or it's part of the project configuration here. Oops. Uh, so I'm using something called Astro.js, which is a JavaScript meta framework. What it does is it takes Astro files and converts them to HTML along with the JavaScript that you need, but it doesn't build and deliver JavaScript unless you specifically ask it. It's a really nice product, and it takes all of the headache out of developing web apps. You don't have to worry about building or anything. Once you install it, you can pretty much start a dev container or deploy it to a GitHub site with very little knowledge. So I really like it. So I already got it installed and running, so I should just need to say npm run dev.
And for those who may not know what an astrofile is, could you explain what that maybe is, or in layman terms what that should be?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great idea. So an astrofile is simply like a template language. It's a marked it's kind of HTML, kind of JSX. So for example, on the homepage here, or actually I'll go directly to what we're going to be working out of today. So .astro, it's pretty similar to React actually.
Yeah.
JSX. So you have some stuff here that is HTML, and then you have some stuff that are Astro components, which are similar to React components. And then you can also add some JSX like language to it to provide it some fun stuff, some interactivity.
Gosh, yeah,
So,
definitely giving some React Native vibes for sure.
So you can see here I have a little bit of JavaScript embedded here that programmatically maps the options for the component to it. Anyways, back to here. Did not start for whatever reason. There we go. Perfect. This special rules because this container is running in the cloud trying to serve me a dev container on a local host. So it has special rules for that, which is pretty crazy because it's like dev container running a website that's running within another website. It's like circular logic, I guess. So I wanted to share, first of all, some of the things that are really cool about Tatum. So if you were going to make a JavaScript request to an RPC node for, let's say, Ethereum, you would need to do a whole bunch of boilerplate, defining the payload's options, making the fetch request, and then unpacking that request to make sure there was no errors, make sure it's not undefined. And then finally, you get to what you need. On Tatum, it's a lot simpler. You just initialize the SDK with the network you're going to use, and then call the function you're going to use. So this is actually interactive. So with this code right here, if you get rid of the error handling and the console log, it's like 2 lines of code to do the same thing. And I'll walk through this line by line real quick. So initializing the SDK creates the SDK object that you can then call functions on. So we do an await since it's async, meaning it's it's not running synchronously. Since it's an API call, you have to wait for the network response time to pan out. On the SDK object, you use the RPC module, and then finally you use the block number method. And the cool thing about this is that the block number method actually works for more than just one chain. And this next demo will show you what I mean. So same story again, we're actually going to use TypeScript here and say, if you were using TypeScript to do this, how would you do it? You would have to define the interface for the request and the response, meaning you have to say each field that is going to possibly exist on this request, we have to say what it is in advance, even if we're not going to use it. So that leads to a lot of boilerplate. And this isn't something to do with Tron. This is just making an API call in general with a typed language. You have to, I mean, this is like a lot of boilerplate, and this is just for the most simple hello world Web3 request, which is get block number. Um, but with the Tatum SDK, you can actually just use the exact same code and just change out the network to, let's say, Tron. So here you can see I have it on Ethereum. It gets the latest block on Ethereum. Let's skip down here to Tron, give it a shot. 593, it ends in 659, and I have that open here. So 593, yep. So you can see that's working and up to date. Do you think it would be worth going through the code for this, or do you think this is something that is pretty straightforward?
I think it's pretty straightforward. You mentioned the part where it kind of takes some boilerplate and makes it pretty simple to do on Tatum's side. I think that's enough. So, I mean, that's a great question, and I think it's kind of amazing that you're able to do that so quickly with only without the error handling, only 2 lines. It's kind of awesome actually. It helps developers realize that the platform for Tatum can kind of help them get started so much quicker than as it used to. So I don't think you have to go through all of it.
Okay. Yeah. And also the cost for this is really low, meaning like your time, since you don't have to go and look up the documentation for so-and-so blockchain, and then write code just for that. If you want to try out a new blockchain, because like Tron's really good and you hear it's really good, but you're used to Ethereum, well, hey, try it out on the Tatum SDK. It doesn't, you don't have to do anything crazy special. You don't have to dive deep into the docs and start reading open API spec documents to figure out how the API works. Like we have plain text documentation for this on our site, specific for Tron that walks you through all the methods. And broadly, Tron is a little bit different, right? It's not an EVM, it's a TVM. Broadly, it's pretty similar to EVM, but with some differences. And we've documented all those here in our documentation that walks you through it. And we even have code pins so you can try it out on the website.
That's awesome. That's how you learn.
Cool. So you can see here I got the code up. The only difference between this and the example code is I'm using this request network variable. And what that does is it goes and looks up the value of this box here. So if it's on Ethereum, it looks that up and finds the object in the Tatum list of networks, which is again like I think 92 I counted yesterday. So not all of those are compatible because not every chain has a block number. ETH get block number. I can't remember the actual request. Some are named differently. Some just don't have that. Some you have to parse the data a little bit differently. But there are other methods that you could use for that as well. Then I did want to show this off too. A lot of people have this issue with using SDKs, and that issue is that they don't want to get vendor locked, meaning like, oh, I start with Tatum and then they wrote me in and I have to pay for their service forever, which is like a fair complaint because that's how most modern businesses work, or at least, developer tooling. They want you to get in the door, and then, once you start using, they start ramping up the price. But that's not necessarily true with Tatum. And I built this little demo to show that off. I know I was talking about this earlier with you, Oz, but I finished it today just for this.
That's awesome. Yes, please.
So what this allows you to do is use your own RPC with Tatum. So out of the box, the SDK comes pre-configured with a list of nodes for each network that Tatum runs. And we do some cool stuff there. We do lowest latency routing. So the SDK checks each node for its latency with the ping, and then it returns the lowest latency node to be used for your request. And it does this at a set interval, so you're always getting the lowest latency node. And that's really cool because latency matters to you and your user. You know, maybe it doesn't matter as much for some people, but for others it does. You know, an extra 50 milliseconds here, there, 100 milliseconds, like individually on its own, it doesn't make a huge difference. But if you start stacking up those little blocks of latency, you know, in your app, eventually at some point it's going to matter and your user experience is going to suffer. So because this is done on the client side, meaning the SDK does it on the client side, it doesn't rely on any backend or cloud provider proxy in the middle. It's done on the client. There's not that extra hop. So not only are you getting the fastest Tatum node, but in general, your connection is going to be much faster than if you're using a more managed solution. Like some of our competitors, for example, use Cloudflare. We use Cloudflare too for our API, but not for our RPC nodes, which is really cool because it just removes that extra hop in the middle that slows things down. But you don't actually have to use us, right? So you can use your own RPC node. So even if Tatum disappears tomorrow, the SDK is still here. You're not tied to us in any way. And that's really exciting to me. So for example, I have one of our Ethereum mainnet RPC nodes here in Hillsboro. I think that's in Kentucky. But I'm going to come here and I'm going to grab the Tron RPC, drop it in here, change this to Tron, give it a whirl, and you can see, actually I should pull up the console just so you show there's nothing crazy going on. I know. I'm not used to the Chrome dev tool. Trying to figure out how to see all requests. This should work actually. Cool, yeah.
Well, a lot of pot shots at Chrome, I guess.
There you go.
It's an easy punching bag these days.
Hey, I'm using it for this demo. But yeah, here's the Tron RPC call in the network log. So you can see it's actually going to Tron. So why that's cool? Yeah, you're not vendor locked. You know, there's free nodes out there. You can run your own node. You know, our competitors don't offer this. What it allows you to do is basically scale to any scale you want, while getting all the advantages of a mature SDK. So with that all being said, you've probably noticed that there's no authentication in my code. So when I create the Tatum SDK object, if you look at the documentation to configure it, it also doesn't necessarily say you should use an API key. And that's because our RPC nodes don't actually require an API key for most users. We do rate limit, obviously. We're not crazy. We're not going to expose our RPC nodes to the open internet and, you know, hope that no one abuses that. But, you know, if you're just getting started, you don't need to sign up or anything. You can just go download the SDK and get started without, you know, having to go through the step of a sign up key. So that's really exciting, but I do want to show what our dashboard experience is like because it's pretty nice. I'm going to use my GitHub to log in.
Sweet. All right, cool.
Okay, it's synced with my main account, so it's not going to pull up the step-by-step process like we were hoping.
No, it's okay. I mean, since you were highlighting that tutorial section up there, I would say everyone read that blog about how crypto works if you don't already know, or send it to someone who doesn't know because that article is pretty well made. The one,
This one,
the one underneath it, the one with the matrix, yeah, that one's. I learned some stuff about Bitcoin today that I didn't know, so I really enjoyed the article.
Written by Dester, our head of support. Man, that guy's smart and a great storyteller. He's told us some stories.
Oh yeah, I really like the part about the how different Bitcoin is versus Ethereum in terms of how transactions are processed. I think it's a little bit down
Yeah,
the line.
yeah. It's a trip. It's a trip. A lot of people don't think about that when they start choosing what they're going to build on. Like, for example, you can't just go and there's not a single RPC call to get the balance of your wallet. You have to look at every single transaction and collect all the unspent outputs and that belong to you and then sum those manually. Um, Luckily, not just SDK, Tatum also has an API, and that function is actually in the API. You can go and call it, and we index the blockchain um, for Bitcoin and the other UXTOs, and can return that data in seconds. Whereas if well, it's less than seconds, it's like milliseconds. Whereas if you wanted to do this on your own side, it would be you would have to, for example, if you download a Bitcoin wallet, install it, you have to sync X number of blocks and download them all, which could take a long time.
Yeah, depending on
But
how good your internet is, could be days.
yeah, exactly. So we offer that as part of our data API. And we also have a lot of those other helper functions that aren't really available as RPC calls just because it doesn't make sense for an RPC to do them or that an RPC node isn't able to do them. Um, for example, checking the owner of a token. You can do it with an RPC node with the native API call or native RPC call, but it's just there's not a built-in method for that. So we have a pretty advanced data API for that. We also have subscriptions, so webhooks that get pushed to you when a certain on-chain action happens. Those are really uh, widely used. And we have some other stuff regarding fee estimation, um, deploying smart contracts, managing smart contracts. And we also have this amazing key management system, which allows you to build a custodial app and secure your keys in a way that would be considered enterprise level security, but doesn't cost enterprise prices. It's actually one of our widest used product outside of RPC nodes. Um, Anyways, sorry, you got me
No, it's
talking about
okay. No, I appreciate the deep down the dive, especially with terms of Tatum. I was just gonna ask you, what are some of the solutions that you guys have been kind of solving that no one talks about? I think you just hit it on the head with that the the enterprise level security. I feel like I didn't know that part of Tatum's offering, so that's good to know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're going to build a web, a Web3 business or a project, you need some sort of management for your security. You can't just, write it down and put it in your drawer next to you, your private keys. And it gets even more difficult when you talk about like doing interactive transactions where you need to automate it. Um, the options are out there, but they're paid and very expensive, which maybe they should be. But we offer our KMS. You can go look at the package on GitHub. It's open source. I believe it's been certified for some sort of compliance. But it's very cool. And we have a lot of users of it. Um, Back to our dashboard real quick. I'll just walk everyone through it. So if you are going to use some of our services, our RPC nodes are free and open, but not for historical calls, archive calls. Those do require an account. So if you were going to do that, you would come here and grab your API key and add it to your code like says here. So API key. Yeah, pretty straightforward. I don't think I need to show that off.
I don't think so. If someone wanted to see what uh, commands or that someone can get from Tron, how can they check from here on which chains and which snippets they can use?
Yeah, it's great. So we have a list of available nodes.
Yeah, so there's trons, and then you can see, yeah, so there's a couple here, including, last block number, balance of address. That's awesome. Perfect. So yeah, pretty simple. It's going to the RPC nodes tab on the Tatum dashboard, then finding Tron, and then go from there. Simple, easy peasy.
Yeah, easy peasy. We try to make it as the developer experience as best as possible. I think I showed this earlier, but we also have a whole section in our documentation just for Tron. And you can see we manually documented every single of the methods from the Tron APIs. So we've taken great care to, do our best with the documentation for other networks. I mean, our engineering team is like experts in blockchain. I mean, granted, they're not experts in Tron specifically, but as far as experts go that are experts of 30 or 40 blockchains, I mean, our engineers they're way up there with building our SDK for those.
That's awesome. Shelby, I thank you so much for going through this platform. And it seems like Tatum was, made for developers by developers, and you can see the way everything's structured so well and so clean and very easy to use. Yeah, it's great to, stand on the shoulders of giants to be able to build a blockchain node, especially with Tron. So we appreciate that demo you created. Chris and Shelby, I want to thank you guys for jumping on. Where can developers find more information about Tatum, and if they had questions, where can they head to learn more about Tatum? And if I'm a developer on Tron for season 6, how do I find you guys?
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'd say the best way would be to go to tatum.io. We also have a really vibrant Discord community, so feel free to hop into our Discord. We're going to have actually one of our judges for the season 6 hackathon, is going to be within our Discord, and we're going to be heading over to the Tron Discord as well to answer any questions that you guys might have. So feel free to find us there, and if you have any questions,
Yeah, you're talking
jump
about
into our
Peter.
Discord.
He's already a celebrity in the blockchain world.
That's awesome. Is he going to be in Denver?
He won't be. He
Oh,
won't be.
man.
It'll just be me and Shelby.
We'll
Sorry to
FaceTime him.
disappoint.
We'll FaceTime him at 2 in the morning, wherever he's at. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll do one quick recap of season 6 hackathon. You can find us at trondao.org/hackathon, and as well as our forum.trondao.org. And you can go there to kind of jump into the community for Tron, understand what projects you're working on for season 6. Register at trondao.org/hackathon to get with dev posts and register your project there. It goes until May 7th for submission, so look out for that. We'll have announcements coming in. We're doing a demo week this year where projects and potentially other partners that we're working with, or judges even, can kind of get together and talk about how their project can, go to the next level. So that'll be fun to watch. So keep a lookout for that on social media channels. And that's it I have. So I appreciate everyone joining in today with Shelby and Chris. Shelby, thank you so much for going through that. It's great to learn about the Tatum platform and seeing the dashboard and seeing different ways of, running a node.
Yeah, glad to be here. I'm excited to see what everyone builds at the hackathon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and have a good one, guys.